Good day, poker peeps. This is Sky with Smart Poker Study. And in this video, I'm going to help you steal more turn and river pots with probing after your opponents show weakness. So we're using the Smart HUD for today's video. Smart HUD you can see on the screen right here. A couple important stats for today that we'll be looking at. VPIP and PFR give us an idea of what kind of player we're up against. We've got a loose aggressive one right here. CBet flop down here, CBet turn, fold to flop cbet, and fold to turn cbet. Now, speaking of statistics, I want to give you my top 10 poker HUD stats cheat sheet. This bad boy tells you everything that you need to know about the 10 most useful HUD stats. So, page 1 of it is just some information. Page 2, VPIP and PFR, a couple stats I already mentioned today. Those are key ones that you need to learn as soon as possible. Now, because we're probing, that relates to our opponent's cbet statistic and fold to flop cbet. And actually, if we want to think about their range, because probing means we called preflop, we kind of need to think about their raise first in stat as well. So much for us to think about today. You can get this sheet for yourself through the link in the description, or just type in smartpokerstudy.com/top 10 HUD stats. Alrighty, so probing is when you pounce on their in-position check-back weakness. A quick definition. In PokerTracker 4, the probe is a percentage of the time that a player bets out of position on the street after the aggressor fails to c-bet right here. It requires that you called preflop from out of position. We're not going to go through the full hand right now, but I just want to illustrate a probing opportunity. Fold. Villain 209 raises. Fold. Now we are calling from out of position. Villain 211 folds. Heads up, out of position, to the flop, completely whiff it. Well, I guess we have some showdown value. We check. Now, generally, a player would c-bet here in position, kind of a hard to hit board, especially if he had pocket aces, kings, ace, queen of spades for a flush draw. So many things he should be c-betting here, but he checks behind. Now is our opportunity on the next street to throw out a probe bet. Let's reset the hand. We'll go over the full hand in just a minute. Now, like I said, it requires you to call preflop from out of position. The most likely ways that this happens, how do we get in these spots? We defend the blinds, as you saw me do here. Maybe you made the 2-bet. You raised first in, and then you called a 3-bet from the button from a cutoff player, basically calling out a position. Or you limped and then called. That's how you got to the flop, out of position, against a c-better. So let's start going through these hands. And as we go through the hands, we'll discuss the various strategies down here. Actually, let's get started with this one first. As the preflop caller, always expect to miss the flop. Truly, my pocket sevens are only going to hit a set 11% of the time, 1 out of 9. The other 8 out of 9, 89% of the time, the flop's going to come ace 10 jack, or ace king 4, there's 2 overcards, or ace 4 5, there's 1 overcard to me, right? Most of the time, I'm going to miss, so it's a really good idea to plan for the probe before calling out of position pre-flop. Now, when you want to probe, really good opponents to probe bet against are those whose c-bet is honest on a given street. Let's look at this player. This player only c-bets 25% of the time, 1 out of 4. He's an honest c-better, probably only c-bets with a pair or better. Maybe the best draws, but a pair or better. If he checks on the flop, that's the perfect opportunity, the perfect opponent to bet on the turn to take it down and steal. Because he's honest, his check means he doesn't hit it. Great turn stealing spot. This player right up here, he c-bets a lot on the flop, 4 out of 6, but on the turn, 0 out of 1. Now, I know that's a really, it's only one hand opportunity. It's not the most reliable of stats, but let's just pay attention to that percentage. Somebody who c-bets 0 on the turn after c-betting the flop, this is a great player. You call them on the flop because they c-bet bluff a ton. You check. When they check behind on the turn, boom, you come out and you fire the river. So let's start going through the hand here. He decides to open raise. Now, this is a spot, and this is a great player. Maybe it doesn't matter what I have. You know, if I don't think this player will 3-bet, I can call with a really wide range, just with the plan of betting the turn when he checks the flop, because he's an honest c-better right here. But pocket sevens are still a great hand to call with, right? Set mining. We get a fold. Awesome. Heads up. Now, my plan at this point, I do have some showdown value, but if he checks behind, I really don't want to see an ace, king, queen, jack, or 10 on the turn. But I'll probably probe just to bluff to end the hand right now on any 9 or lower card. He checks behind. Awesome. My probing opportunity is set. And the deuce of diamonds comes. Doesn't really change much. Sure, ace 4 just completed. 4-6 just completed. But is a tight player playing 4-6? No, maybe just ace 4. A great card to just bet on right now. Take the pot down. And in case he calls, I can check the river on any overcard. He might just check behind. I have a little bit of showdown value. So I love the bet right here. It accomplishes two things. Potentially taking it down right now, or if he calls, letting me see that river for free. And he folds. Sweet! Let's take a look at the next hand right here. Once again, when you're probing, you want them to find a fold. So you have to ask yourself, can he find a fold? On that prior hand, I laid out all the reasons. He checked behind, means he's weak. The deuce isn't going to help him. Great spot to bluff right there, right? Now, we also want to look at fold to probe on the turn or river in a pop-up. Now, this stat does not accumulate all that quickly because players don't face probe bets that often, right? But fold to probe on the turn or river. Let's take a look at the c-bet pop-up right here. When he's in position, fold to probe. Oh, on the turn, 100%. It's only 1 out of 1. But so we have a good turn probing opportunity against this player. That's great. Now, just in case, like that, there's no statistic here, like there's none there because he hasn't faced a probe bet, you might want to just look at fold c-bet to a raise or fold to float. Like if he's just generally foldy on the turn, if you see high percentages with other stats, it could indicate that he's just a turn honest player in general, and you can get him to fold. So I call, same thing, trying to set mine, a fold. We don't hit the set. There's 2 overcards, backdoor straight draw, not much of anything at all. We check. Nice, he checks behind. Now, c-betting at 50% or less means they're honest. But I make this play generally, and I plan for this play anytime I find c-bet at 50%. The idea is I'm going to probe this fool, which I did for a little bit over half pot, trying to sell the idea that I wanted value on that flop, right? The idea is you can rep a strong hand, top pair, trips, straights, flushes. I defended from the small blind. I do have pocket 3s, 8s, or 9s. If I had one of those, I would check with the plan of check raising his c-bet. He didn't c-bet, right? So I missed out on value. So now I'm going for max value. I'm betting as if I have it. Make a value bet that he won't make a value bet that means you mean that tells him you mean business because he won't fold to 1 or 2 big blinds. If I just donk this at 1 big blind right here or probed at 1 big blind, there's no way he's folding. He has 2 overcards. He can easily call right here with just the hopes of hitting one of those 2 overcards on the next street. But bam, I bet big, got him to fold right there. Now let's rewind the action here on the 3-8-9 board. He decided to just check, right? Dry and scary boards where his check back often means he has air or weakness. I guarantee this loose aggressive player, if he had pocket queens, he's c-betting. If he had 8-9-2 pair, he's c-betting. If he had ace king of hearts for 2 overcards with the backdoor flush draw, he is c-betting. He has absolute air right now, or maybe even like pocket deuces that he just wants to give up on. So if you can name a ton of hands that check back, that can fold on the next street, that's a good thing. So his check back is air and weakness. And like I just said, I named a ton of hands that can fold on the next street. Or I guess I named hands he doesn't have. Hands he could have here are king 10, king jack, queen 10, jack 10, jack, not jack 8, ace jack, offsuit, right? Things that just did not hit a draw at all, just have 2 overcards. So many cards that are weak that can check back. Yes, I'm making this probe bluff on the turn. Now, one thing you want to think about, what turn or river cards are good to probe on? The fact that he checked on 9-8-3 means he likely doesn't have any of these. Probably doesn't even have a draw connected to this. 6-7 is often going to c-bet bluff right there with the open-ended. So anything really small at this point, we can easily bluff on. Even a 10, even a jack, I would try to probe on this turn. So a jack and below, I'm going for. But I can see him checking behind a ton of ace X, king X, and queen X hands on that board. I might not have barreled if that 8 would have been ace, king, or queen. So now let's go to a river probing opportunity. Let's take a look at our opponent here. Open raises. Now, remember, once again, you want to probe on a street where, or you want to probe when they're honest on that street and they check. This player c-bets 50%, but he doesn't c-bet on the turn. And it's 0 out of 3 too, to 0%. And a great thing, look how river honest he is. He's bet only 14%. It's probably 1 out of 7, yeah. And he's folded 80%, probably, yep, 4 out of 5 right there. River honesty plus turn honesty means a great river probing opponent. So we call with the queen king. We could have 3-bet. He folds to 3-bets after raising 75% of the time. Not bad, but I can keep the pot small with not a great hand, a decent hand, not a great one, but I have a great opportunity on the turn and river to steal it from this guy. Oh, and it doesn't help that I flop second nut flush draw and open ender, right? But I check, and he bets 4.8. Now, that is kind of a larger bet. He's trying to telegraph that he means business, that he has a good hand. But hey, holy cow, I'm open-ended. Plus a decent flush draw right here. And I still have the opportunity to probe later. Everything's ripe to call at this point. Oh, and if we look at the math involved too, how many outs do I have right now to a strong, good hand? Well, I think I have 17 outs. I have 9 outs for the flush draw. I'm open-ended, so that's an additional 6 outs for a non-heart straight draw. So that's 15 outs. Plus I have the 2 other kings. Not the king of hearts, because I already counted that as a flush draw. I have 2 other kings as top pair outs right here. So I have 17 outs. If you multiply that by 2, I have a 34% chance to hit on the next street. I only mathematically need 30% to call. Loving this call right here. I don't fault it one bit. Actually, love it, I should say. Raising, not a bad play either, but we don't have to risk anything with a raise right now. As soon as he checks the turn, which we expect him to do, boom, super easy river probe against a river honest player. He checked, did exactly what we wanted. The 5 doesn't help him, doesn't connect with the board at all. Great spot to be bluffing. Now, like I said, once again, make a quote value unquote bet. You want to sell the idea that you have value. Imagine I had pocket 10s or even 10 jack. On that turn, I was planning to check raise him. That's what's going through his mind when I make such a big bet. Man, he wanted to check raise me. He either flopped a flush, or he turned trips, or even turned a full house. He's going for max value here. He's going to fold a 10. Ace 10, king 10 is going to fold here. Ace of hearts is going to fold. He's not going to look me up with just a single heart as well, which currently beats me, right? Ace of hearts. So this bet accomplishes so much. I've utilized my plan, or followed through with my plan, I guess I should say, and I took that bad boy down. Alrighty, so if you want to utilize your HUD as I do, wait a second, 10-7 suited. We're not finished. My bad, everybody. So we have an open raise once again. Now, this player, let's start thinking about probing right now. Well, c-bets 100% on the flop. We haven't seen anything on the turn, but he does open raise a lot. So far, raising first in on the button 67%. He has a really wide range. Most of his range is crushing us right now. But sometimes you just gotta defend against the loose aggressive players, even with a hand like this. And an interesting thing, I don't know what led up to this hand, but this player had just left in the big blind. Maybe he lost a lot of chips. Maybe I'm capitalizing on some tilt from this player. I have no idea, to be honest with you. But that's just an idea with such a short stack, loose aggressive player, he just left. That could have been the situation. Ooh, 10-7, gut shot, backdoor flush draw. No overcards, but that's okay. Now, he bets a little bit over a half pot, but we can expect that. So far, he's c-betting 100%. It is only 1 out of 1, but still, loose aggressive players often c-bet flops. This does not mean he has to have a set of jacks, pocket kings right here. So I am calling. Now, here's another reason I'm calling, and what we talked about earlier. Name a lot of checking back hands that can fold. Right now, he is c-betting all his overcards. He's c-betting pocket 7s, pocket 5s, and 4s. This kind of player is probably c-betting a ton just to bluff his opponents off the pot. There's so much 8x, 6x, like 6-5 can be making the c-bet. Hoping to take it down now, but if I call, he can hit a 6 or a 5 for a really strong hand, right? So much weakness in his range checking here. Oh, but then the 5 hits, completing some straight draws, adding a flush draw to the board. What happens? Check. He checks behind. So if we want to go back to that exercise, name lots of check back hands that can fold. Most of everything that I just said can now find a fold. That 5 doesn't help at all. Let's see what comes on the river. Oh, another 5. The 5 didn't help him. He didn't c-bet. He's not going to like that 5. Perfect spot to come out. And this time I fire just half pot, kind of repping that maybe I rivered a full house. I'm trying to squeak out as much value as possible against him. Maybe I just rivered trips. Maybe I had 7-5 on the flop for an open ender. Makes sense to call. 7-5 calling pre-flop, 7-5 calling on the flop, just turning a pair, still open-ended, rivering trips. Holy cow, my bet scared him off his hand. Alrighty, so if you want to use the Smart HUD like I do to exploit your opponents, go to smartpokerstudy.com/smarthud, link in the description. You got to get this bad boy. 3 versions, a cash version, 6 max MTT, and full ring MTT, along with 7 custom pop-ups and a 75-minute webinar. When you pair it with the 5 videos this week all about the Smart HUD, that's 75 minutes. Holy cow, you're going to be crushing with the Smart HUD in no time.